I was very pleased to see how interactive you guys were in the last video, which was so cool. Like, thank you so much for contributing. I asked who you chose, Triss or Yennefer, and why. Yennefer is the only choice for me. Absolutely adore the family dynamic between Yen, Ciri, and Geralt. For that reason, Triss always seems like the odd one out. Yen even refers to Ciri as her daughter multiple times throughout the saga. I love that. The relationship between her and Ciri is just, I love it. When she sees her and Kaer like, oh god, I love that part. And who can forget, I want to be called Ciri of Vengerberg, daughter of Yennefer. My heart! Being as cold as she is and as stern as she is, and like you're like you need to watch yourself. You feel like you need to watch yourself, and like this respect towards her when you see her, and it's like you can't even imagine her ever have smiled in her whole life. But then you put her with Ciri, and she just melts. She becomes somebody else, and I absolutely adore that. I think she's afraid of vulnerability. She does not want to show any vulnerability because she feels powerful, and she's afraid that people will find out her weakness and use that against her. So she constantly has to have that front. Yennefer is very much a mother figure for her, just as Geralt is a father figure. And for a long time, Yennefer does keep Ciri safe. They go off traveling together. That's in Time of Contempt. They leave in Blood of Elves, and Time of Contempt, they're together and they're traveling together, and she's training her and stuff. And you find out that Yennefer is actually very sad that she can't have babies, because sorceresses are infertile. They can't have babies because of the magic that they possess. And you do find out that she wanted to be a mother, that she has that in her, and you see that reflect when she's with Ciri. Relationships were hard for her to like actually dedicate herself to one relationship or belong to something. She felt like she couldn't have what she always wanted anyways. Like it was kind of like, well, what's the point? You know, like I'm just going to be constantly reminded of what I can't have. So that connection that the three of them have is something that she holds very dear to her. I chose Yennefer the first playthrough. I didn't know about the books and never played the first two Witcher games, so I was going in without anything influencing my decision. Though Yennefer can be a butthead, you get to see that she truly loves Geralt and Ciri. Also, I enjoyed their verbal sparring. I enjoy their verbal sparring as well. Triss is a sweetheart and a redhead. That is a constant. Like, and I've even heard, I don't remember what developer it was, but somebody on CD Projekt Red, they chose Triss because she was a redhead. I gave her the rose last game, so I always stayed faithful. Yen is a toxic personality. Yeah, she kind of is, kind of like what I was saying, but I feel like Triss is much more toxic for Geralt because he would have to change in a way that he's not prepared to ever change, I think. I chose Triss before I read the books, and I think it's a good decision because the love between them is genuine. Maybe I'm wrong. No, you're not wrong. I think the love between them is absolutely genuine. Triss, because she's not selfish. She actually is selfish. I read the books before The Witcher 3 and loved Yennefer's character. However, afterwards I played The Witcher 2 and enjoyed Triss as well. So when The Witcher 3 came around, I had no idea what to do. Ultimately, I considered the books and the previous games and chose Triss. Why? Because people change. I loved Yennefer in the books, but didn't enjoy her in the game. Her true spiteful self came out and I hated her for it. Also, Triss is a more genuine character, but the main reason I chose Triss was because of Vesemir and the other Witchers. They enjoyed Triss and her company while Yennefer was disrespectful to them. And like it or not, the Witchers are Geralt's family. That's not a bad reason. Like, that's good reasoning. Like, I could agree with that. She has spent a lot of time at Kaer and Triss. More than Yennefer. She doesn't know the Witchers as very well as Triss. and she doesn't hang out with them and stuff, so there hasn't been that opportunity to get that type of relationship with them. And even Vesemir's like, oh gosh, like Yennefer's here, you know, because she kind of treats everybody as her manservant, you know, like, go get me some water or whatever. You know, if you prove to her that you're not just taking advantage of her, because I think that's her default. She thinks that everybody's going to take advantage of her, so she has to put this like defense mechanism up. Then she will treat you like a true friend. Like I said, her and Triss are best friends, and she will be loyal to that friendship. Ultimately, this was a hard decision for me simply because the story writing in the game is so well that to deny that either one of them loved Geralt would be doing a huge injustice to both. I agree. My first playthrough, I went serious into being with Yen, and it was heart-wrenching to say the least to be cold to Triss in that playthrough, the way that I was. With that being said, my last two playthrough, I sided with Triss, and it was in those playthroughs that I realized how much Yen actually loved Geralt. Interesting. So much so that she rescues him at the end cutscene. I guess I tend to like Triss's personality the most, simply because I can't stand it when people try to be controlling, and that's how I pictured Yen. But then again, what guy in his right mind wouldn't want to take care of the woman he loves the way that Geralt is willing to do with Yennefer? I know canon for the storyline is Yennefer, but I truly found this to be a tough decision. It really is a tough decision. You do know, like, if you have read the books and even played Witcher 1 and 2, you do know that Triss tries to control Geralt as well. Like, she tries to manipulate him. So I think as much as you could say that Yennefer is manipulative, you could say the same about Triss. And like, that Yennefer is selfish, you could say the same about Triss. I think they're both, like, Yennefer is selfish and cold and manipulative and all those things for her own reasons, but Triss is as well for her own reasons. So even though Triss is much more bubbly and easier to get along with, like a more light-hearted personality than Yennefer, I think they both have that aspect to them where they want to get what they want to get. And I think Triss is more capable of doing more manipulative things than even Yennefer. I think Yennefer, since she's so individualistic, like she's so independent, she kind of just like, look, I'm not forcing you to stay. I'm not forcing you. If you don't want to be with me, then you could go to hell. Like Triss, she wanted to force Geralt. Like, she wanted to make him love her. Triss or Yennefer wouldn't do that. Yennefer would just out. She would just leave. So you can almost argue that Triss is a bit more manipulative than even Yennefer. I like both Triss and Yen a lot for very different reasons. The choice was so close for me that it was the hardest choice in the entire game, in my opinion. I ended up playing the game twice, picking Yen first, Triss second, and was happy either way. I want to kind of try that as well. To begin with, her character intrigues me. Sapkowski intended to create a female character that would be a breath of fresh air. Upon my first look, Yennefer seemed as the typical femme fatale. But as I kept reading, I slowly started to see what made her special, her inner conflict. I'm a sucker for inner conflict in characters. Whenever there is inner conflict, I'm like, this is gonna be good. I think she's very afraid of vulnerability, and she sees that love, and I think Geralt is the same exact way. That's why he always uses that line. I'm a witcher, I can't love. Which is exactly what made her flaws redeemable to me. Her cold exterior and habit of using men becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Sorceresses do not enjoy a high social status. People don't think well of them. The ideal sorceress has to be strictly practical. Emotions are not needed. That's exactly what I was talking about. Much like witchers, sorceresses are considered inhuman beings, incapable and unworthy of loving or being loved. to Yennefer's mind, even though she desperately needs to feel love, any man claiming to love her is a liar, and liars deserve to be used. She lived that way for almost a century until Geralt appeared and pretty much blew her whole worldview all the way down. I didn't read the books, so we'll stick with Triss. Why? Because her personality and redhead. Even if I hadn't read the books, I would still choose Yen. Her personality is fascinating, like ice and fire. She is really soft and fragile inside, but she doesn't want to show it, so her attitude may seem cynical, or like a cynic. Actually, she's so sincere, and she makes people respect her. Such a strong and beautiful character. Like I said, people say that she's very dishonest, but I think she's one of the most sincere out of all the characters. Before I read the books, I chose Triss simply because why not? She was cute, helping people, and loved Geralt, and apparently I didn't do the Last Wish quest. But after finishing the books, I enjoyed and appreciated more for this game, and of course Yen was the only choice. The relationship between Geralt, Yen, and Ciri are too special for me to overlook. Definitely Yennefer. At first glance, Triss seems like the better choice from a gamer's perspective. Without reading the books, she's there from the beginning. She's always helpful, kind, very attractive. You only meet Yen in the last game, and she seems cold and uninterested. It isn't until you reunite with her later that you begin to see the true Yen. And at the end of Blood and Wine, the two different versions of outcomes, I think there's actually three, between them really show it. Triss wants Geralt, but as the man she wants him to be. Exactly. Yen will take him as the man he is. The choice was easy for me. That's good. That's exactly what I've been talking about. Please don't feel like I'm just choosing the Yennefer comments. Like I said, I tried to look for as many Triss comments. Like I was like, somebody tell me why they chose Triss besides her being a redhead. But a lot of them were Yen, so I'm not being biased, I promise. I chose Triss because she is my type. Book reader here, Yen all the way. Choice was pretty obvious for me. She was the one. Their banter in game is perfect, though I have a sneaky suspicion CD Projekt Red favors Triss a little bit. She was always a support character in the books, but got this giant sidekick role in the games. Nothing against her. There is no clean character in The Witcher. You can find some dirt on pretty much everyone. Just wish Triss wasn't painted as a saint in the games. I don't think she is painted as a saint because you do know that she's manipulating him as much as whether you want to pay attention to that or not. She is very much manipulating that relationship, and that the fact that he doesn't remember, like that amnesia, she's taking advantage of that. She stands for fire, and a lot of the magic she uses is fire. So I think they really play off the imagery that Triss stands for, that she represents, is that fiery passion, and just the way she looks just gives it off. And Yennefer, not really. Like Yennefer in the books, she's said to be very cold, and her hair is raven black. Her eyes are purple. The way that she smells, but in the game you can't really show that. Like you can't really, every now and then you do see that Geralt, like it'll zoom into his face, and he's just like, and you know he's smelling like, here comes Yennefer, that lilac and gooseberries, and she does have that dark hair, but it's not very, there's not much imagery tied to just somebody with dark hair. With red hair, there's so much more there. Like it's like, ooh, that's fire. If Yen had white hair or like blue hair or something, it'd be like she's ice, like she's cold as ice, But she doesn't. She has black hair, and her eyes, you can't tell in the game that her eyes are purple. They kind of, sometimes they look a bit just dark, like grayish or something. That doesn't really, it's not an aspect of her that pops like it does in the book. So I think the imagery is much stronger with Triss. I think that's why CD Projekt Red used Triss more, because you could express it much more on screen than you can in a book. I went with Triss because The Witcher 2 was my favorite experience in that world, so I fell for her in the game, plus she's a redhead. I chose Yennefer because of the unicorn. Bravo. In both of my playthroughs of The Witcher 3, I chose Triss. I think the biggest reason for this is my tendency to play all of my RPGs, even ones in which the character is his own entity instead of an avatar of me, the player, from my own personal perspective. When I romanced Triss, it was a product of my own personal attraction and attachment to the character, instead of from the alternate perspective of what is best for Geralt himself. So essentially, I think that Yennefer is the best option for Geralt. It is clear that they were meant for each other, but because I let my personal feelings control my choices in games, I couldn't help but romance Triss. That's absolutely understanding. Like, I understand that completely, and I think a lot of people play like that. A lot of people that chose Triss, that's where the whole like, oh, because she's a redhead, she's my type. It's because they just prefer her. They prefer her. They're like, I want. It's like any other game where you get to romance somebody. You choose the character that you like. Where you're like, I wanna experience the storyline of the romantic storyline that's tied with this character because I really like them, and that's totally fine. Triss was my first playthrough choice, and reading more of the book's stories haven't made me regret it. Why Triss? Hard to say. Could be simply because the opportunity presents itself. First, if you follow the natural main quest progression, Velen, Novigrad, Skellige, and I liked Witcher 2 Triss. Witcher 1 Triss is unfortunately pretty awful. There's so many more, and I had so many more chosen. A lot of them were Yennefer. I was trying to do a lot of the Triss ones. But yeah, this was really, really fun for me. Like, it just got me thinking about a lot of these characters that I absolutely love. Thank you so much to everybody that participated, that started up a conversation in the previous video. Please feel free to still, talk about it in that video. My next video, I'm going to change it up a little bit, and I think I'm going to talk about the gameplay. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys later.